Hey there, this is Jexy with the Systems Alliance, and in this video, we're going to go over what the heck is going on at Blizzard. Staff are leaving because of the influence of Activision just poisoning everything that used to be great at Blizzard. Diablo 4 is on the right path again, but apparently it went through some crazy changes in the past few years that are basically the reason for it being delayed so long. And now apparently Blizzard wants to develop a Warcraft Go, like a Pokemon Go type of game. What is going on over there? So Jason Schreier over at Kotaku put out this article recently that really goes into what the heck is going on over at Activision Blizzard. As I've said in previous videos, and as many fans have already basically said, Blizzard obviously used to be one of the best developers that there is, one of the best publishers, the best gaming companies in the world, maybe the best in the world. And part of what made them great is their dedication to gamers. It was a company that was very, very, very profitable, but run by gamers for gamers. And what that meant is that you had development cycles, maybe up to 10 years, and sometimes after 5 years, they would just scrap it. I don't know if some of you remember StarCraft Ghost. That was a game that was supposed to be, I think maybe even a third-person shooter type of game, but you were playing as a ghost character, a Terran ghost character from StarCraft. And this was way before StarCraft 2 ever came out. And fans of StarCraft, like myself, were just so hungry for the next StarCraft game. I mean, we had to wait over a dozen years for StarCraft 2 to come out. Obviously, they had this in the meantime, said, you know what? It's not up to our quality standards. We're just not going to release it. And that's perfectly okay with me. And it's okay with them because they're still making tons of money. Because when they put out a game, it sells. Obviously, Diablo 3's launch was just a catastrophe, but through updates and expansions, it became a pretty good game. And you would think a game, even like that sells over 30 million copies. Think about that. Over 30 million copies sold, you would think that would deserve a sequel at some point. And they pretty much stopped giving updates to the game about 4 years ago, so fans have just been going, all right, what's next? And then Blizzard, / maybe more Activision, thinks that it's a great idea at BlizzCon 2018 to go ahead and announce Diablo Immortal only available on mobile.
Are there any? The current plan is to be on mobile, both Android and iOS. We don't have any plans at the moment to do PC.
So obviously, not understanding your audience, we've gone over this already, just maybe the dumbest PR move I've ever seen, especially given the audience.
Hey, just was wondering, is this an out-of-season April Fool's joke?
No, it's a.
And definitely, despite everything, as bad as Fallout 76 has been, all the other disasters going on, this is the biggest PR disaster of 2018. So obviously people were asking a lot of questions. Has Blizzard abandoned their core PC audience, the one that supported them literally since the company was formed? Is partnering with NetEase and future Chinese companies like basically what they're turning into? Just going casual, going mobile, going for the quick easy buck, losing all artistic integrity, just slapping skins on something and saying, look, it's a new game? You know, what happened to Diablo 3? Are they doing a Diablo 4? What's going on? So once again, Jason Schreier, controversies recently with him aside, he was able to do some investigative reporting and get us these answers. So I guess it all starts off in 2008 where Activision merged with Blizzard. And over the past decade since, Blizzard has been very prideful that they've remained a separate entity. Activision has not had much influence until now over Blizzard. Blizzard has always stood out compared to any of the other companies that Activision owns. They have their own management structure, which is obviously huge since none of the others do, not at that level at least. And they even have their own campus, which is a whole hour away from the rest of Activision. I mean, they might be joined in name, or at least have in the past, but that was pretty much it. Yeah, the financials flow through the same place, but other than that, they were two separate companies operating totally separately. And that's what it needed to be, because Activision is just using games as a conduit to get financial results. They don't care about gamers. They don't care about anyone like that. All they want to do is make money, whether it's through microtransactions, loot boxes. They don't care about the player. They just view the player as a cash cow, and how can we rip them off? That's how Activision thinks. Or at least that's how Activision thinks now and has for the last decade or so. Blizzard, on the other hand, has always been pro-gamer, for gamer, games by gamers, and it's full of artists. These are artists creating art. That's what Blizzard is known for. And even the difference with Blizzard compared to, say, a company pre-EA like BioWare, BioWare always made amazing games. And they sold millions of copies, but they didn't sell like Blizzard sells. And they didn't have development cycles like Blizzard has. I've talked in the past how Dragon Age Origins had a 7-year development cycle, something that's pretty much unheard of. And one of the reasons why Dragon Age 2 was kind of a stinker is because it had a 2-year development cycle, which was cut short because EA then owned them and just forced it out the door because they need to make as much money as possible, as fast as possible to please investors, get this out by this date, we don't care if it sucks. And it's such a short-term thinking because, well, the game might have sold double or triple if it was actually good and you would have made money in the long run, but publishers who are greedy like EA and like Activision don't think that way. Blizzard, on the other hand, has 10-year development cycles. They give their developers as much time as possible because that's the right thing to do. And obviously that doesn't sound like a great match with Activision, but that's why they've been separate for so long. But what's making staff leave now is that they're not so separate anymore. Activision is encroaching in. So internally, one of the biggest controversies that's been going on is cutting costs. Now, if you work at any corporation, obviously everyone wants to slim down on costs. It's difficult to make more money because you never know what you put out there, what product it is. You never know how it's going to sell. That's something you can't control. But what you can control are your own costs. So Activision has gone ahead and really started cutting down, and that's including Blizzard. In late 2013 or early 2014, pretty much right after the release of Reaper of Souls, the Diablo expansion, something that really helped save Diablo 3, right after that, Blizzard made an internal announcement that absolutely shocked all the developers there because this is something that flat out never happened. They said Diablo 3's second expansion was canceled outright. No more. So the Diablo team that hadn't obviously done a ton of work on it yet since they just finished releasing the first expansion were absolutely shocked. And here's the quote. What they told the team was, "You finished Reaper of Souls. It's really good, but we think the best thing for the IP is to move to Diablo 4 in whatever form that'll be." All the developers were feeling that executives were basically giving them a vote of no confidence that this game, Diablo 3, was a giant screw-up. Now, was it actually that bad? When it launched, sure, there was a bunch of things that needed to get fixed. But by the time they released the expansion, it was a pretty great game. So why would they cancel it? Especially, it sold 30 million copies. You don't sell 30 million copies and think that's a failure. That just doesn't happen. Another quote by an employee, "A lot of people felt stunned by it," said the person who was there. "I think a lot of them felt like we made mistakes on Diablo 3, but we learned and we made Reaper to show them what we could do. We have fixed it and Reaper's really good. I think a lot of people felt like we'd figured it out and we would know how to do this. And expansion 2, whatever it would have been the highest expression of that. To have them pull the plug without really seeing how Reaper did really stung." So obviously from an artist perspective and from a business perspective, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. Why wouldn't you wait at least until a bit after the expansion had launched to see what the game actually ends up selling, to see the critical reception, to see the fans' reception, everything? Why wouldn't you go ahead and do that instead of just canceling it? If you cancel it and it sells really well, then you just killed yourself. You shot yourself in the foot. I don't understand it, and it seems like everyone at Blizzard didn't really understand it either. They didn't understand what management could possibly be thinking. It's one thing to think it's bad, but if you allow someone to go through with something, see how it plays out. Otherwise, don't let them go through with the expansion at all. What's the point then? So in March of 2014, as fans were obviously very pleased with Blizzard at this point, with the expansion for Diablo 3 with Reaper of Souls, internally, the entire team was already being split up. Some of them were going over to Warcraft, some of them were staying on with Diablo just to keep on patching and stuff like that, and others moved on to Overwatch. So already, even though externally it seemed great, everything was already going downhill then. In the past, Blizzard would have stuck with them, they would have kept the same amazing team together, and they would have put out an even better third expansion. But now with Activision sticking their hand in everything, it's canceled. So for the next 2 years, the team that remained with Diablo started to take a look at, okay, what is Diablo 4 going to look like? And like I said, for the next 2 years, they took it in a very different direction. It was going to be apparently more like a third-person Dark Souls type of game, getting rid of the isometric camera view that you're used to with Diablo and going right down into it. So it's definitely going to change the way Diablo was. So it would have been a vastly different game than anything Diablo had put out before, but apparently it just wasn't going very well. So this cancellation might make a little more sense, but the fact they were going into it to begin with, that's just kind of weird. I mean, why would you want a Diablo game to be copying a game that already does it well, like Dark Souls? So then at some point in 2016, the team began working on Diablo 4, and apparently they want to make it dark, like really dark. Anything that was a little cartoony in Diablo 3, they wanted to get rid of it completely. We're going dark, gritty, gory. This is how we want the next Diablo to look. And obviously, graphically, you can do that now and make it look really, really good. So Diablo 4 plans on coming out in 2020, but obviously there was some controversy, people saying that they were supposed to do a Diablo 4 announcement at least at BlizzCon this year, and they didn't do it. They were saying it was actually planned at one point, and then they said it was pulled last minute, but then they went back on their word. So what exactly is it? Well, apparently in this article, Jason interviewed a couple more people and said whether or not it was supposed to be at this or not, they had planned on announcing it this year. And I mean, now through reporting and everything like that, through investigative reporting, yeah, it's announced, but I mean, there's no trailer, there's no like official announcement or anything like that. We just know, okay, great, Diablo 4 is coming. But I mean, talk about a botched job right there. Whether it was marketing, Activision, whoever it was, I mean, everyone just dropped the ball. You could have followed that Diablo Immortal mobile announcement by saying, okay, I know you're all upset about this, everyone at BlizzCon, because obviously you're a PC audience and you're hardcore and you're here for Diablo 4. Check it out, Diablo 4. They didn't do that. I don't know why. And the fact that we know it's coming out now, they definitely should have done it. So who knows? Apparently the reason why Diablo 4 was not announced, or why they haven't announced it yet, is because of a game called Titan. It was supposed to be Blizzard's next big IP, and they started developing it around 2007. It was canceled 7 years later in 2013. So obviously that was a big disappointment. Tons of money and time sunk into a project like that. Did not go over well internally. Obviously a lot of people would be disappointed. You work 7 years on something and it never sees the light of day. Even though a bunch of the developers that were working on Titan moved on to go ahead and work on Overwatch, which became a massive success, everyone still viewed Titan as a really big downfall for the company. But still, obviously didn't affect them later on. I mean, you still had StarCraft 2, those games were amazing, all of those, and you had the great success of Overwatch. So it's not like it killed the company. Not to mention during that time, World of Warcraft keeps on printing money, so they're still doing okay. So obviously one of the things at BlizzCon is them saying that they have some of their best developers working on mobile games. And of course, once again, another screw up. Why would you say that? Also, why would you do it? In fact, well, we know why they do it, money. But why would you say that at BlizzCon? People want your best developers working on PC games that are good, none of which you announced, but instead you have them working on mobile games. So in his investigative reporting, Jason discovered they are actually two separate teams, mobile and then their PC gaming staff. However, the mobile staff has taken a lot of the talent away from the PC staff. So yeah, they're two separate divisions, but you're losing top developers from your PC staff over to your mobile staff. So that is actually going on. You are missing out on some of the top guys because they are moving to mobile. And another thing that they basically admitted is this Diablo Immortal game is basically just for China. They did research, China said they want it, so they did it just for China. If it's just for China and they know Americans and Europeans and everyone else in the world doesn't want it, because no one likes the garbage mobile games, why would you announce it at BlizzCon? Or even if you announce it first, hey, we got this going on. It's mainly for our Chinese audience. Don't worry about it. We're still doing our own thing. Sure, okay, everyone's happy. But they didn't do that. They made it their big thing, and obviously it's now a complete meme. And some of the developers that are in Blizzard, apparently, they don't want to work on a project for 7 to 10 years. They want to work on smaller projects, maybe with a 2-year production life cycle. So I get that, but at the same time, they're killing their company. From the outside, the perception, their stocks are going down, fans are abandoning them. Is this really what you want to do? And their answer, I guess, internally is, some of them, yes. So they're going ahead and they're developing a Pokemon Go type of game, but for Warcraft. Apparently, internally, they're big fans of Pokemon Go. That's fine, but they want to make a Warcraft game. So, okay, that seems a little more reasonable than making a light Diablo 3 Immortal crap. I mean, that just didn't look good. But here's the other thing. Blizzard is just copying other gaming companies now. They can't invent their own thing. They've never done this. Blizzard is supposed to be full of pioneers, right? They're not supposed to be followers. They're supposed to be leaders. But apparently, they're just getting lazy and giving up on that. So in the spring of 2018, a new CFO came over from Activision to Blizzard. At Activision, she was in charge of finance and investor relations. So that should show you what type of gamer she is. Not at all. So she comes to Blizzard and said the company's goal this year is to save money. Basically, we need to cut costs. We can't spend any extra, blah, blah, blah. And everyone was just like, who are you? What is going on? But apparently that is what happened, and it shows. It absolutely shows in the decisions that have been made this year going forward. They've been a disaster. And for someone who wants to save a bunch of money, not doing a very good job because your company is losing all of its value. So tell me, was it worth it? Was it worth it to save a couple bucks to lose billions? Was it worth it to cut your nose to spite your face? Like, that whole thing does not make sense to me. These are two totally different companies run both very, very profitably, but two totally different ways. And you have to let them do that. Or maybe, hey, Activision could learn something from Blizzard. But instead, they're trying to force it the other way around, and then both are going down. So as I said before, they always seem like two separate companies. Activision has not been doing well. Call of Duty Black Ops 4 has been missing all its sales marks. Obviously, they removed a bunch of stuff. They butchered the game. Fans aren't happy. I mean, just look at the fan score for Metacritic. Not many people like this game. In addition to that, check out the fan score for Destiny 2. That's obviously not doing as well, once again, because they screwed over their fans. Blizzard, meanwhile, has Overwatch, StarCraft 2, these type of games that are doing well. They haven't had anything new in a while. That's okay. They have long development cycles. Well, that's not okay with Activision. They're coming over, they're trying to clean house and say, hey, if you don't have something new coming out right now, then you need to cut corners at every single place you can. We were being told to spend less at every corner because we have no new IP, said one former developer, because Overwatch set this bar of how much we could earn in a single year, which is over $1 billion. There's a ton of pressure from Activision to get stuff moving. They want something to show shareholders. And here's another interesting quote. Recalled one Blizzard veteran, I remember a lot of us looking at each other and saying, man, if we had just done that second expansion instead of losing half the team as a result of the cancellation, and then all of the personnel changes, management changes, and this walk down the road of Hades, if we hadn't done any of that and just focused on doing a solid third act for Diablo, it'd be out by now. And to me, that's such an obvious duh thing, but when you think about it, it's like, okay, Activision is telling Blizzard, hey, you have no new IPs coming out, so therefore you have to cut costs. Why do they have no new IPs coming out? Because they canceled their new IP. They've canceled their games. They've canceled their expansions. Why would you do that and then say, well, you don't have anything? That's like if you need your partner over here, because Activision and Blizzard are partners, you need your partner over here to come with you to a fancy event. And then you throw paint all over their suit and then say, well, you can't come because you're dirty. That's basically what Activision has done to Blizzard. And Blizzard's over here like, yeah, you're the one who made it dirty. You just threw paint on me. So if you read this article, you'll see the massive shifts over time that Activision has slowly been creeping in, getting control, and basically ruining Blizzard. So is Blizzard dead? I know a lot of fans say Blizzard is dead. Is Blizzard dead? I don't know. They're obviously still working on Diablo 4. It sounds like we only have a couple years until that comes out. But this is obviously a really bad outlook on Blizzard as a whole. Blizzard stock is now down 40% in just under 2 months. They've had a massive slide. And most of it's because of their own mistakes. Activision with Call of Duty has not done well. Activision with Destiny 2 has not done well. Blizzard with the Diablo disaster has not done well. All of this financial downfall is of their own doing, but Activision seems to want to blame anyone else but themselves for these decisions. But anyway, let me know what you think about this. Do you think Blizzard is dead? Do you think Activision basically has them by the you-know-what and it's over for them? There's nothing Blizzard can do. They're going to keep going downhill. Do you think they're going to end up just being like a mobile game company like obviously Activision would love to be? Do you think you're going to start seeing more loot boxes and microtransactions and every little thing that Blizzard does? The future doesn't look bright, but there is still hope. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, hit me up on social media, and we'll catch you next time.